So I had a client, it's been a few years ago, that came to me. She was dealing with what we call imposter syndrome. Uh, she worked for this company for about 5 or 6 years and left the company because they got bought out by another company and a lot of changes going on. So she left the company, went to work for about 3 years with another company. And her old boss, who had gotten moved up in management with the new company, called her up and asked her to come in for an interview for his old position, which was higher than what her position was previously with the company. Asked her to come in, did an interview with her, hired her on the spot, gave her a raise, a higher position, and a much better overall pay and everything. But she still believes she was, any day now, they were going to figure out that she didn't know what she was doing and they were going to fire her. And it was really hard for me to imagine how you could feel that way when your old boss calls you and asks you to come in and hires you on the spot. And even her reviews at that point were all excellent reviews all the way up to when she was coming to see me. So we really had to do a lot of work on getting her to build her own self-confidence in what she did and how she did it and how well she did it, and the fact that, somebody called her, not she didn't go after the job, they came after her, that they could want to fire her at this point. It was an interesting case, and we really it took a while for her to get to a better place with it. But by the time we were done, she had a lot more confidence in herself, and a lot of those feelings had left her.
Thank you for your story. This is Gina.
And this is Don.
With Focused Healthy Family. This is podcast number 68. And today we're talking about the imposter syndrome. But before we get into that, we'd like to hear a word from our sponsor. And we're back.
We're back.
Talking about the imposter syndrome and parenting.
Yeah.
So first Don told his story about the client he worked with, and going to kind of talk about the definition. If you've never heard this before, what is the imposter?
Well, and it comes out, when I first learned about it, it really was surrounding around business, and people working, not believing. Well, let me read the description. This is coming from healthline.com. It was a report, an article done there, but they described it as imposter syndrome, also called perceived fraudulence, involves feeling of self-doubt and personal incompetence that persists despite your education, experience, and accomplishments. To counter these feelings, you might end up working harder and holding yourself to higher standards. This pressure can eventually take a toll on your emotional well-being and your performance. And that's what I found with this client that came in. And I've had actually one or two even since then. But what I started realizing as we were working with more and more with parents and being a parent myself, is that really can fit in the world of parenting.
Mm-hmm. And I first looked it up myself and found on Verywell, they talk about if you find yourself consistently experiencing self-doubt, even in areas where you typically excel, it might feel like restlessness, nervousness. It could manifest as negative self-talk and symptoms with anxiety and depression. And then to get into the crux of parenting, I went to mindpath.com, and it says, what is motherhood imposter syndrome and how to recognize it? And they said it's common in first-time mothers, but I'm going to tell a little story in a little bit about how it can manifest in other ways too. But it's signs of motherhood imposter syndrome, and this could apply to either parent: excessive negative self-talk, perfectionism, difficulty asking for help, feeling like a failure, frequent upward social comparison, minimizing accomplishments, constant anxiety about being judged, isolation, and insomnia. Kind of sounds like parenting in general. Yet, whether it's work that we're doing or parenting, most important work, we dive into it. We're doing the best we can with what we know.
Mhm.
And yet we can feel like a fraud.
Yeah.
People could say, oh, you're, such a great mom, or you're such a great dad. And
But
you're
it,
thinking, oh my God, I just screamed at my kid the other day. You should have seen me.
yeah, it doesn't matter how much people say, really. It's how you feel about yourself. I like they describe 5 types of it. I thought just real quick, and we can talk about them more later. But well, of course, the first one is perfectionist, which I think this whole thing really centers around perfectionism, having to be perfect at something. The natural genius, believing that we should know all and be all. We shouldn't just know that. We should. Well, in fact, the client I talked about, it really felt like she should know this new job that she's taken on, even though it was not the job she's ever had before, and it was a step up, but she believed she had to know it. The rugged individualist, the one that believes they should be able to hike that hike, they should be, the expert. Before you can consider your work a success, you want to learn everything there is to know on the topic. You might spend so much time pursuing your quest for information that you end up having to devote more time to your main task. So in other words, you go down the rabbit hole of the internet, or trying to investigate. The superhero, the one that believes they're bulletproof, that anything, they should be able to handle any situation, anytime, anywhere.
Super mom.
Yes, yes. So some very interesting types there and I can see all of them and how they, through the clients I work with, I've seen a lot of those different types.
Mm-hmm. And so, what do we do when we experience this? How do we?
Well, you said you had a story. Do you want to tell a story now, or?
Yeah, so Don and I have had this business for a while. I joined in several years back to grow Focused Healthy Family, to work as parent coaches, to do talks and communication skills classes. We teach the communication skills class based on how to talk so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk. And it has concrete exercises of ways to engage with your children, a way to be present with them and listen to them. So we started doing this work, and we've got 3 kids, 2 with severe anxiety disorders that have been, periods of their life have been severe difficulty, requiring intense time and effort on our part. And I remember struggling. I'm not even sure with which child it was. And here we are teaching all these principles, and we're not living this. And I'm like, how can I go out there and coach other parents when I feel like I'm failing with my own kids? And it was a difficult time, and it has evolved and changed as our kids have grown, and our other child has had more issues with this, and feeling like, how can I write about this? How can I talk to other parents? How can I help other people when I feel like I don't know what the heck I'm doing? So it's kind of stalled me in some ways of moving forward, feeling like I guess I should be able to do it all because we teach it.
Yeah.
And yet,
I laugh only because I know, I feel, I know the feeling and I understand it.
and yet when every time we run a class, the classes especially, because we've got several other parents in there, and we're going through examples and practicing things. And it's a good reminder to me about using these skills, right? We can learn different skills, and yet if we don't take the time to use them, refresh our memory, re-energize with it, we can go back to old automatic reaction ways. We can hear our parents coming out of us saying things we don't really want to say, just reacting to our children instead of reflecting and responding.
Well, it's interesting because one thing that Esther Hicks from Abraham Hicks said, and I got a kick out of this. It's about kind of knowing everything or being able to do everything. She said, would you want all the food you would ever eat now, right now, you know? No, it'd be way too overwhelming, you know? And it's the same with our knowledge. It's the same with our process of life. You know, if we had everything we wanted, or if we knew everything there was to know, it would be way too overwhelming, and it would be just too much for us. And so, I mean, I think we have to really um, really believe in that a life, parenting is a process.
It's about the journey, not the
Yeah, yeah.
destination.
Good response. Yeah. Well, I had a client actually this morning said that she was trying to, to be a good mother. And I said, let's take the word trying out of it. You're doing it, and you're doing it as the process goes. You're growing along with the process. So you're doing it,
Doing the best you know how,
Yeah.
given the energy and resources and the knowledge that you have in the moment.
Well, we're all smart in certain things that I don't know it's kind of a hard thing for me to conceptualize, but we all have knowledge in certain areas that other people don't. And so I think we can always think of ourselves as smart, because even somebody that hasn't had a high education can be smart in a lot of stuff, common sense. So
I just rewatched the wonderful movie produced by Michael J. Fox about his life. It's called Still. It's on Apple TV. And we had watched it on our own, and then we watched it with my mother. As you know, Michael J. Fox has Parkinson's, as does my dad. And you talk about education levels. He dropped out of high school to go to Hollywood and pursue acting. And so it's
I thought you meant your dad for a minute. It's like,
and his knowledge base, his ability to speak to Congress to raise funding for Parkinson's research, his ability to interact and engage with people, all the books he's written, and all he has brought to the awareness of this progressive neurologic disorder. It doesn't take a college degree or a doctorate to be able to engage in these areas of life and interacting with people and success, whatever that looks like for you. And we don't have to have all the answers. I write blogs, and often as I sit down to write about something, the act of writing is helping me discover where I'm at in the process. And so it's often for me, as much as for anybody else who might read it, that through experience it and doing it. We have 3 kids spaced out over 11 years. And so we've learned along the way as parents and did things differently with each child as we've learned and grown, and also because each child is different. And we don't always have it figured out. As a homeschool mom, parent, I would always say, I'm figuring it out as I go.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that either, because then it shows that it gives your kids the example that of how to grow, how to you can take your time, that you you don't have to have all the answers. It gives them good example of that. Hey, mom's doing it this way. I can, I don't have to have it all right now either.
And realizing you can change your mind. You can go, you know what? We've been doing this way. It doesn't work. Let's do things differently now. You can do that with parenting in so many areas. Maybe you've gotten into some habits that you're not happy with, and say, you know what? We'd like to change this. We'd like to try a different way to approach this. We'd like to improve our relationships.
Well, we're in a place now, we've been kind of talking about this with young kids, but now in this world we're in now with your father and what he's going through, it's a whole new place for us too, in a way, and feeling like we don't know what we're doing, or how we're doing, if we're doing it right or wrong, but we're at least doing it and learning as we go.
Yeah, I've worked in adult and geriatric rehab for over 30 years now, and my father, diagnosed with Parkinson's 17 years ago, but his difficulty has been a lot worse over the past 3 to 5 years as he has progressed with dementia to really advanced dementia. And trying to help my mom and having a conversation with my siblings and my mom about getting the best care for my dad. And sometimes I just feel like I'm making it up as I go. In the moment when I'm with him, I kind of figure out how to handle situations. But here we are growing a program for this. And I'm like, I don't know how to write about this. I don't know how to put this into words. And I felt like I had more confidence when I was just working with other people's parents and not my own. And it's just making me rethink everything despite all my experience. It's like, do I really know what I'm doing? Um,
Does anybody know what they really
yeah,
do?
I help other people with this when I'm still struggling with my own father and juggling this. Um,
Well, and if you want to look at it, even a bigger picture of it, the way things are changing, especially even in the last 10 years, things have changed so rapidly, technology wise, cultural wise. It's hard to keep up with that and to know everything about it. You can't, I don't think. And so we have to give ourselves a break because it will drive ourselves crazy if we don't. I can't keep up with all the technology, and we have our children that teach us on that, which is so great to have. And I think accepting that fact
mhm.
that it's okay, I'm not going to um, go crazy over the fact that I can't figure out, my latest phone or the latest piece of computer software that I need to learn.
TV.
Well, yeah. And so it's important for us to one way to get, to kind of work through this is to first accept that it's okay not to know everything or be able to do everything, you know. In fact, it wouldn't I think it would be kind of impossible, but also it would be really too much, to I I feel like my skills are talking with people, being able to talk, be able to help people in coaching. I don't want to spread my skills out any further than this. When I first went into business, I I was in the web business for a long time. And when you first get into any business, you're like, oh, somebody will ask you, like they would ask me, can you do art design? I was like, sure, 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 because you needed the money or whatever. But it wasn't my focus. It wasn't what I did well. So it didn't really help me any.
So you got a graphic designer who handled
That's
that
right.
end of
That's right.
websites. You
That's
had
right.
someone who handled the um,
Data work.
data
Yep.
work and the other components. And we need to do the same with parenting even.
Yeah.
What ways can we allow others to engage and our children to figure things out for themselves? We don't have to have all the answers and have it all figured out, yet I can feel like we need to.
Well, that's what like uh the co-ops that we used to be part of, in homeschooling. If you didn't know science well enough, a lot of times you'd go to the co-op where they would have somebody that was really good at science that would kind of, work with you or work with the kids and teach them the things you don't know or didn't understand.
Mhm. I always felt like I'm learning along with my children. There are so many areas that I became more interested in as I was helping them explore and learn. I don't consider myself their teacher. I consider myself a facilitator and giving them the resources and helping them locate that. And history and geography, areas I did not excel in school, I've developed interest for and have learned along with them. So even though that was not my strength, and of course, like Don said, we participated in co-ops and done other activities and groups and classes to add to that and to, like you said, areas where it's not our area of expertise. And when you're raising kids, there's so many things that you've got to juggle. Getting them places on time, helping them to learn basic skills, helping them learn manners and how to interact with people, social skills, and put their shoes on. And It can feel like a lot. I'm experiencing that on the different end of things. I've worked in the nursing home for a really long time. And my dad, after being in the hospital with pneumonia, came to the rehab where I work. And this has been interesting.
Challenge.
I find it more exhausting helping my dad than caring
Mm.
for the patients that are strangers, really, and working with them. And, when I go to work with a patient for a therapy session, it's 40-minute session, maybe an hour, and I'm spending time with them. Maybe I'm doing chart reviews if they're new there to evaluate them. And then we set the plan up. And especially because I work part-time, I'm not even there continuously. Other people are following through with the care. I can kind of step away from it. With my dad, there's so much more of a pull, an emotional pull,
Mhm.
and thinking about the big picture with things, thinking about our personal interaction relationship, helping my mother to navigate this and helping my siblings understand different aspects of dementia, especially. And it's a lot juggling both. And I used to think I wanted to go into pediatrics when I was in school as an occupational therapist. And as I wound up having children and meeting their needs, I realized I'm glad I didn't do that, because I have the balance of raising kids and enjoying young children and as they grew up, and then working with adults in my work life as an OT. So now I've got an aging parent who I'm helping, and I'm working in that industry, and it feels heavier.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, this is why I didn't go into pediatrics, because just even when my dad's not there, I'm working with other people and people with dementia, and I'm thinking about it on a more personal level now. And there was a man who's kind of needy and calling out, "Help me, can you do this for me?" Every time I walked past him, and I found myself avoiding going past him. And I'm like, wow, that could be my dad
Yeah.
sitting there in the hall and wanting someone to connect with him. And it's like, but it can be challenging to get things done. As a therapist, I have a caseload, a set number of people that I'm supposed to work with that day, and I'm not there to help everybody on the unit. And yet we often stop. Someone's calling for help to find out what they need. It might be as simple as reaching something for them or the TV control. And yet it's a balancing act. And so now I've been balancing, and especially if I'm on the unit where my dad is at, it can be hard. I ran into a situation Sunday where I walked on the unit and I was going to someone else's room, and I saw him. He was in his wheelchair facing the opposite way. And I thought, oh, I could go up and say hello to him. Well, I got up to his chair and he stood up and started to bolt down the hall. And so I got in front of him and I'm like, "Dad, it's Gina," and he was convinced people were trying to kill him. When you have dementia, and especially with Parkinson's, you can have hallucinations, seeing things that aren't there. You can have delusions. So having ideas of things that are happening that are not actually happening. There can be paranoia. And when he's in that state, it can be a challenge. So I'm like, okay, I got to clock out for this time that I'm engaging with my father. This is not part of my work time, as I can't be the one doing therapy with my dad from a professional level, and billing for that. So that's done by the other therapist, but there I am as his daughter and also a therapist, and engaging with him and knowing him and how he processes things. And he has difficulty coming up with the right words of what he's trying to say. And sometimes we can guess about what he's talking about, especially when it goes off on numbers. He likes to get wrapped up in talking about numbers from his work as a financial planner and as an engineer. And so it's a juggling act, and
It's stressful.
it is. And feeling, like you told me, I feel like I got to be everything for everybody. I've got to
Mhm.
be there for my kids. Oh, my daughter needs to go to the doctor. I need to get home from work to do that, and I'm helping my mom and my dad, and I feel like I've got, and I need to be working on the business, and I haven't been doing the blogs. I haven't kept up with those, and I need to be writing the book, and I've got these things to do.
Got a bad case of goddess.
Taking care of myself. And so I've been sleeping a lot lately, and I say to you, I don't know why. I went to bed early and I just couldn't get up this morning. And you're like, gee, I wonder why you're tired.
What?
And it's draining. And
Well, I was working with somebody the other day. that's in a similar situation, and it's her husband. And what we realized in the work we did together is, first off, she has a conflict in her head of, I didn't sign up for this. And so there's that feeling, but then on the reverse side of it is the guilt for feeling that. And then that tended to put higher expectations on what she should be able to do.
So she's acting as the caregiver for her husband.
Yeah. And it really came out pretty strong, and it kind of woke her up a little bit to the fact that how these conflicts are going on in her head, that she really didn't realize how, the expectations that she's put on herself because of the guilt of being the spouse that they that better married, better or worse, for better or better or worse, richer or poor, with sickness and health. So the expectations are very high when you've got that kind of built into your mind and into your relationship. Not that you're not there for support, but that what we came around to was, this was his journey that she wasn't responsible for. She's there to be able to support and help where she can, but not to take on the responsibility that this somehow is her journey that she has to solve or take care of. So that, I think that was a realization, and I think that's one of the things about overcoming this, is getting that awareness that what's really going on for you, and understanding it so that you can then get past it.
And what you're saying, I know I've said that about our kids and their struggles with anxiety and OCD, that it's their journey.
Yeah.
And we're here to help find the support for them and give them the resources, yet it's their life.
Yeah.
And we've got to step back sometimes and be like, okay, they're struggling right now. This is where they are.
Hmm.
And I'm going to be supportive, and I'm going to be there for them. I don't have to fix this. I don't have to solve this for them. I can only do what I can do to help them. And it's hard as a parent, a caregiver of a loved one. You're so enmeshed in caring about them and worrying about them that you can either be over helpful. What can I do for you? How can I help you? And kind of getting in the way, where they could become dependent on you or get annoyed with you for always being there. And you're throwing your own energy into it, and it can actually add to their anxiety, because they're like, oh, they're all worried about me. Oh no, I shouldn't be like this, so they don't worry
Yeah.
about me.
Yeah.
And then all the while you're doing all these things and feeling like you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
and feeling like a fake. And
Yeah. So it's really kind of, I think, for anybody feeling this way, like if you're dealing with a senior parent, or even the children, is to be able to step back, take a step back and just kind of assess what's really going on for you, what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your feelings about things, so that you can at least become aware of what you're thinking and how you're thinking about it. And then you can begin to maybe find ways to change it.
that makes me think about, at the end of the day, I used to ruminate over, I wish I had done this differently. I wish I had said this. I'm an introvert. And when I'm in a situation and in the moment, I don't always think of what I want to say. And so after the fact, I'd be like, oh, I wish I had said this or done this. And I found myself doing that a lot at the end of the day. So a number of years ago, I called it my yay journal. And at the end of the day, I would write down the successes, and I would focus on what I did do instead of what I didn't, to kind of re-empower myself with that. And so, even though my kid had a tantrum and a meltdown, I stayed calm. I removed myself from the situation, or I stopped myself mid yelling, or, I took 15 minutes for myself and did some breathing, kind of celebrating those successes and really trying to look at your own, how you respond, how you're reacting, and, what you're doing. Maybe it's, as a parent of young children, I got 2 loads of laundry done today and I made dinner, or, I fed the kids. Maybe it was sandwiches, but they got fed. And just celebrating that. And it can be very helpful to write that down, and especially at the end of your day, to kind of re-energize and rethink about things, of how you're doing things, to
Mhm.
so you're not fixating on everything you've done wrong.
Well, that way you can also, if you write it down, you can tell your mind, hey, I don't need to think about that right now because I've got it all written down and I can pick it up at any time I want so that you can sleep instead of
You're
having,
talking about dumping all the
it's
thoughts and
yeah,
worries. Yeah,
because it gets to a place where you can then be able to tell your mind, it's okay. I got it written down. Now I can sleep because I get a lot of people that well, and I'm kind of that way. I can get into a place where starts reeling through my head of what I'm not doing or didn't do or can't do, whatever. And getting it out of there can help.
yeah, you set a timer and just journal and just write whatever's running through your mind as a way to release it.
Well, and the other that they talk about it in this article about the ways you can overcome it. Of course, they talk about the awareness factor of being aware of how you're feeling about things, how you're thinking, what you're doing. But they also talk about building connections. In other words, you know, talking with other people about it. If you're in a situation like you did this weekend where you talk with your brother and your sister and your mom and kind of talk through things, it's also about letting some of the feelings out too with somebody,
Mhm.
finding a spouse or a friend or whatever that you can
Support
vent
group,
with.
having other, my
Yeah.
mom's connected with other women with husbands with Parkinson's, and just being able to talk to them about it. And people are leaning on her now with new diagnoses, and she goes to different support group meetings, and that can be helpful for more than just that, in it, primary caregiver. I've
Mhm.
thought about it myself, and helping other people to understand it. My siblings who don't live locally, they could go to those kind of meetings where they live to get more knowledge and
Mhm.
understanding of it. And it just helps to connect with other people and hear from other people, just like when we do the classes on communication with parents, and that they hear other parents having similar struggles and they realize they're not alone, because we feel like these burdens, that other people would handle them better, they would take care of them.
Yeah, they'd know what to do. It's that looking at the white picket fence outside the house and saying everything's going great inside there. And that's not, so it's opening up and, talking through things that helps getting the other people involved, especially like I say, when you're seniors, getting your siblings involved, getting your own kids involved in helping you. Um,
One last thing I wanted to share.
sure.
A number of years ago, maybe 5 or 6, I was going through a difficult time. And for my birthday, you reached out to a whole bunch of friends and family members and had them say something about me. And you cut it out little pieces of paper, and you bought this pretty journal with different sayings, and you interspersed it with these quotes of different people. And the last time my depression was really hitting me and sinking in, I pulled that journal out and I went through and I read those things, and it really helped me kind of shift a little bit, to see that people saw me, recognized me for my strengths, and it kind of gave me a little boost. And if you write in a journal of some sort, to read, go back and read sometimes, especially if you're writing down a gratitude journal, or what I call the yay journal of your positive things, it can be helpful when you're struggling to read it and go, okay, oh wow, or even just any kind of journal where you've written down stuff and you're like, wow, I was going through all that, no wonder I was stressed and feeling anxious and overwhelmed. I was handling a lot, and it helps. It's a way of stepping outside of it and kind of stepping back from it, to realize that, because you can have people tell you, oh, you're doing a great job, but it doesn't always feel real when you're in the midst of it and you're struggling.
Well, and then they also talk about challenging your doubts.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I do in my practice, is listening to what I'm telling myself, the self-talk, and then digging into it. What's behind that self-talk, or what's underneath it? Challenge yourself. Is that real? Whatever you're saying to yourself, is it really real? Am I a terrible daughter or son? Is that really real? Look, and then there's where you can write down the things that you are doing and really take a look at them. Yeah, now that I look at it, I'm doing a lot. You're doing a lot for your mom and your dad.
You can acknowledge the things, okay, this area I haven't done as well as I'd like.
Hmm?
I've made mistakes here, and seeing it, saying, okay, I made those mistakes. Yet I did do these things, and just kind of being honest with yourself
Hmm?
about it and calling out rather than just, I'm terrible at everything.
Yeah, watch the generalizations,
Always
I'm
messing
awful
up.
this or whatever.
Every time I say the wrong thing, I'm always a never.
Oh yeah, those magic, I think I've got like 10 words and always and never ones, and auto and should. Um, so that, yeah, and questioning yourself with a why. Why am I doing it? That just throws up defenses. I like, if nothing else, change it to a, well, what if kind of, or what is this, or what is it about, or what's behind it, or something like that, and say, why am I doing it? Well, you may never get the answer to that kind of question, but you say, well, what's behind it? If that happens, then what? Those kind of things help you kind of dig into it and really.
Stopping and asking yourself, what am I feeling right now? What am I experiencing right now? And a wonderful friend of mine and mentor says, what you're feeling is not fact. It's just what you're feeling right now. So I'm really anxious about this and having to come up with a decision to help this loved one with whatever. This is where I'm at right now. I'm feeling anxious about it. And
And of course, you can always do good old EFT. Like I said, I've worked with this, even though, yeah,
I feel like a
tap,
fraud.
tap, 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 tap.
I feel like a failure. I don't know what I'm doing. I completely and totally love and accept myself.
Yeah.
And so learn more about tapping on our website. We'd love to hear from you on your experiences and thoughts on the imposter syndrome. So please reach out to us and connect with us.
And I kind of go back to this. I think I've talked about this before, but as a parent, especially, your failings are not failings to the kids a lot of times. They're really examples of how not to do it or how to learn from it, especially if they see you growing and resolving.
Yeah, making mistakes and moving forward from them is a huge lesson. We don't really teach our kids anything if we do everything right perfectly all the time.
Or if we feel like we're not perfect, or we're perfect just the way we are. I look at perfection two different ways now. I used to believe it was too hard to achieve, but it's not really about achieving it. It's about, we're perfect just the way we are. The other thing is, I don't think God has a quality control section to it, the heaven or whatever, or that when I was in the food plant, they'd have the conveyor of food going along, and if it didn't match up to the right weight, this thing would punch it out. And I don't see, wherever we're being made at, that this body's not good enough, knock it out. So anyway, so that's our podcast for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We would love to hear from you. Tell us about your little imposter story, if you have one, or how you're succeeding in believing in yourself. And make sure to leave us a comment. If you like what you heard today, you can learn about our parenting coaching program or join us on our next workshop. You can find out about our blog, more about our podcast, or you can sign up for our Tuesday tips, simple tips we do every Tuesday in a little podcast. Good parenting tips for.
You can get them as an email, and you can also listen on Tuesday when we do a short 15-minute or less podcast covering that topic.
And you can find out all about this at www.focusedhealthyfamily.com. That's focused with an ED, healthyfamily.com. You can follow us on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family. You can follow us on Instagram at gina.focusedhealthyfamily. And remember, how you speak to your children today shapes their future and yours.